Smugness and groupthink.
That's it. You got it.
All right, Tucker. Great show.
Thanks,
and always good to see you. And welcome to Hannity. We have breaking news at this hour. President Trump has now released his highly anticipated fake news awards. It crashed the GOP.com site in seconds. The most traffic they've ever had. We have the report coming up. Also, tonight, the Trump-hating liberal media, they are just refusing to accept the fact that your president is in excellent health and more than fit to serve, maybe for 2 terms. Now, the partisan press, they're going down the conspiratorial rabbit hole, and they're now Trump health truthers. I'll explain that. And we have all the video proving this insanity. And CNN used the word hole hundreds of times last week. Tonight, we will unveil our name for that fake news network, plus brand new stunning developments about the Clinton bought and paid for phony Russian dossier, the anti-Trump dossier. According to the Washington Post tonight, the FBI shared information with the dossier creator. This is the guy that lied to us using Russians, Christopher Steele. This is so corrupt. And Sarah Carter reporting that close Clinton advisor Sid Vicious Blumenthal, he was interviewed by the FBI about that phony dossier. But before we get to our opening monologue, Ed Henry is at the White House. He has more on the president's fake news awards. I literally burst out laughing.
Well, Sean, as you noted, there's a lot of interest in this, especially among the president's allies. The website, GOP.com, crashed when the president tweeted out that this was here. We should note today, Senator Jeff Flake attacked the president for attacking the media, compared him to Stalin. He got strong pushback here from the White House, number one. And number two, the president went right ahead and said, here you go. Here are what he's calling the fake news awards. Number 11, by the way, was Russia collusion. The president says there's no collusion. Number 10 on that list, as you go through the top 10, the New York Times falsely claiming on its front page that this White House had hidden a climate change report. That was not true. Number 9, CNN falsely reporting that the former FBI Director James Comey would dispute the president's claim that he had not been told, his claim that he was told he was not under investigation, when in fact James Comey had told him that. CNN reported the opposite and had to correct it. Number 8, Newsweek falsely reporting that the First Lady of Poland did not shake the president's hand. There was video proving that that was simply not true. They had taken a screen grab that showed right before the handshake. Number 7, CNN making the list again, falsely reporting about Anthony Scaramucci's meeting with a Russian, retracting it because of what they called a, quote, significant breakdown in the reporting process. Number 6, CNN hit by the president again for falsely editing a video to make it appear, as you see there, that the president had defiantly overfed fish during a visit to Japan with their prime minister. Actually, the prime minister had led the way with the feeding and had suggested the president do it. That video was also attacked. Number 5 is interesting. It was about a rally, a political rally the president had in Florida. He's attacking the fact that a reporter, you see him, Dave Weigel there, had suggested it was not a large crowd. He was using a photograph that was taken at apparently hours before the event. Number 4 is interesting because it was literally from day one of the administration. You see the bust there of Dr. King. Time magazine falsely reported that the president had removed that bust from the Oval Office after Barack Obama had put it in the Oval Office. Simply not true. President Trump kept it there. Time magazine falsely reported otherwise. Number 3, CNN makes another appearance. The president, in his words, says CNN falsely reported that candidate Donald Trump and his son Donald Trump Jr. had gotten special access to hacked documents from WikiLeaks before they were made public. That was not true. CNN had to walk that back. Now, number 2 is particularly interesting. It's ABC News' Brian Ross. Remember that he got suspended for this report.
He's prepared to testify, we are told by a confidant, against President Trump, against members of the Trump family, and others in the White House. He is prepared to testify that President Trump, as a candidate, Donald Trump, directed him to make contact with the Russians, which contradicts all that Donald Trump has said at this point.
Now, that report suggested that General Flynn was going to tell the special counsel, Robert Mueller, that there was Russian collusion dating back to the campaign. That was not true. ABC had to retract it. The problem, of course, is that the stock market had a bit of a crash after that news, suggesting that there was collusion in the campaign. That was fake. And number one, this is interesting, the New York Times columnist Paul Krugman, on the day of the president's election victory, you see him there, Paul Krugman, always touting his economic credentials, said that the economy would never recover from the Trump victory. The president cites that as number one in what he's calling the fake news awards, particularly fitting on a day, perhaps, Sean, when you saw the stock market reach yet another record high, but perhaps more importantly than that, just that barometer, the fact that you had a company like Apple saying that because of the Trump tax cut, they are going to repatriate billions, that's billions with a B, of dollars that they had parked overseas because of the previous tax laws, that they're now going to bring back to America and invest here, jobs, build a factory in the United States, put a call center in the United States, jobs, money pouring back in the United States, something the president touted earlier on Twitter, Sean.
All right, Ed, you can't make this stuff up, and it dovetails perfectly in tonight's breaking news opening monologue. All right, so the sick, the twisted, the mentally unstable anti-Trump media again working itself into a new manufactured frenzy. Now, we have been explaining how the biased press operates in this country for a while. Here's how it works. They rush from one fabricated meltdown to another, and in the process, these brain-dead so-called journalists, they bounce around the same talking points in their little fake news bubble echo chamber. And it becomes a competition to see, well, who can say the most outlandish, the most offensive, the most completely false thing about President Trump. It's like they're hypnotized, lobotomized robots. They're kind of programmed every wake up, hate Trump. It's really pathetic, and it's sad, and it's predictable, and they are not serving you, the American people. Now, members of the media, sadly, they're sheep, they're closed-minded. They have actually convinced themselves, this is the psychotic part, through their own conspiracy theories, that President Trump is, he's suffering from dementia. He has early onset Alzheimer's. He's deranged. Now, the newest fake news fixation is all about the president's health. You think he'd be happy? Now, naturally, after the president's doctor told them that he was in excellent, I repeat, excellent physical condition, and this shocked him, could easily serve for 2 full terms, the media could not believe it. It goes against everything they have all been telling themselves, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month. The press, they can't stand the fact that the president scored a perfect 30 for 30 on a cognitive exam. And my guess is most of the people in the media world would probably fail that test if they took it themselves. I'd love to test them. Now, before we show you new examples, it's important to highlight just how utterly insane the media was yesterday at the press conference with the president's doctor. Watch this.
Do you keep a tally of how much golf the U.S. president plays?
Some of the president's friends have told reporters in the past that they think he's a germaphobe, that he washes his hands obsessively and is concerned about that. Have you seen any indication of that type of behavior?
Does he watch too much TV?
I don't.
From a sedentary lifestyle sort of perspective, should he cut back on that?
Do you see any evidence of bone spurs, which the president said that he suffered from? Is he limited to one scoop of ice cream now?
Do you have any concerns about the president's Twitter?
No, I don't. Yeah, Twitter doesn't involve me as a doctor. I don't have any concern on that.
Does the president wear dentures? You mentioned the dental exam.
The president has no partial or dentures of any kind.
You said he doesn't drink and he doesn't smoke, and other than the diet issue, did you address drug addiction?
Drug addiction?
I mean, any other drugs?
Yeah, no, he has no drug addiction.
This is real reporting. This questioning went on for 49 straight minutes. The media just refused to face the truth, the reality. President Trump is perfectly healthy. You'd think they would be happy. Apparently not. Now, of course, it didn't take long for what we're now calling Trump health truthers. Think about this. To come out in the media, and now they're questioning everything that the doctor said. This is unbelievable. Watch this.
The alleged excellent medical exam results of the fellow in the White House has spawned a new conspiracy theory. It's known as the girther movement.
He said he's in excellent health. I mean, Sanjay Gupta came out and was like, not so sure about excellent health.
He seemed like a Trump fanboy.
When he said 239 pounds.
whatever, but I mean,
I know I'm being a girther, but I mean,
if that's what 6'3", 239 pounds looks like, that's a shock to me.
I'm not sure if it makes me feel better that this doctor says that he has no cognitive issues. It makes me feel worse and more worried for the country.
The White House press corps seemed stunned that the president, who cannot button the button on his suit coat, isn't much heavier.
The Montreal Cognitive Assessment is actually a fairly low-level test. It is unbelievably good at predicting dementia or pre-dementia. That doesn't say that he's not morally or even mentally unfit to be president. It just says that he doesn't have pre-dementia.
Yeah, we're going to really listen to Dr. Joe, Liberal Joe, and Dr. Mika. And by the way, CNN, they took things even further with this morbid and sad prediction. This is nuts about President Trump. Take a look.
This coronary calcium score is a score that a lot of cardiologists use to try and be predictive and be proactive. And if the number gets up over 100, that is concerning to a lot of doctors. It's concerning because you can start to say, well, if you do nothing different, if things don't change, you can start to predict the likelihood of having some sort of heart event, cardiac event, a heart attack or something like that within a certain number of years. So the president has heart disease. Those numbers qualify him for having heart disease, and it clearly needs a plan to try and prevent some sort of heart problem down the road.
Really? He's never examined the president. Now, we know that fake news, CNN, I have a new name in a second, and we know they hate the president, but really, they're going to predict a guy that's never examined the president that he's going to have a heart attack? Now, this type of behavior, it shouldn't be surprising, especially coming from what we're now calling, you see it right there, CNN, the whole network, or the whole fake news network. It fits. CNN somehow managed to say that word hundreds of times in 1 week alone. Here are just a few of the examples. I promise I played them all. I have too much news to cover tonight. But here's some. We'll put it on our website tomorrow.
What was your reaction when you heard the president call, African nations holes?
It's not clear what he meant by whole countries.
Are you shocked or surprised by this?
I'm not surprised. In one way, I'm proud. I am a proud holder.
No, we are not all created equal, at least not if you are born in, as the president put it, a whole country.
The word house instead of whole, as in house countries, not whole countries.
I guess he's a holer.
Is there a difference if the president said whole or house?
Do you think these countries are holes?
Donald Trump has turned the Oval Office into a hole.
Holers built this country 110 years ago.
In addition to the president's comments yesterday, a few more.
Whole countries.
Whole.
Whole country. Rich, do you have any example of any whole country that the president referred to that is predominantly Caucasian?
Holers.
Holes.
Holers. I work for holers. I'm proud to be a holer.
I never in a million years thought I would be saying hole on television.
Congratulations, CNN. You've done more than enough to earn your new nickname, the whole network, fake news network. Keep up the good work. Now, you would think that CNN, after hearing this over and over and over again from the American people, what I'm about to play, maybe they would listen and say, wow, maybe we're not doing something right here. Take a look. Are they not listening? Apparently, they are so hard-headed that nothing sinks in. Also tonight, we have major breaking news. This is important tonight about the phony, fake news. Hillary Clinton bought and paid for Russian propaganda document and dossier. Sarah Carter reporting that longtime Clinton aide advisor Sid Vicious Blumenthal apparently was interviewed by the FBI in 2016 about this fake news anti-Trump dossier. And that's not all. According to the Washington Examiner's Byron York, congressional investigators are now working to determine whether or not the Obama State Department was involved in gathering and circulating fictitious and totally fake information that was found in that dossier. It's getting deeper every night. And according to another new report, an FBI agent exchanged information about the Bureau's Russia investigation with the former spy that was getting the phony Russian information. Christopher Steele. He's the guy that put the dossier together. So you have Steele being told by our FBI about their Russia investigation. At the same time, Steele is getting paid by Hillary Clinton to dig up phony Russian propaganda source dirt on Donald Trump. You can't make this up. And we also know from Fusion GPS co-founder Glenn Simpson, his testimony that Steele briefed the FBI about the dossier before the election. This is corruption at the highest levels. We've got so much to get to tonight. Joining us with reaction, Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, and Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. On top of the Sid Vicious Blumenthal thing, so we now have our FBI, Sarah Carter, literally telling, this is new to me, the guy that's paying for Russian lies, salacious details on a candidate to basically fix an election with phony Russian propaganda, they're giving him information?
I think that's incredible. You know, you would think that the FBI would be close-hold about their own investigation before sharing that, obviously with an ex-British spy who's working for Fusion GPS, who's being paid by the DNC and the Hillary Clinton campaign. Sean, the FBI usually does not share information with people that they're interviewing. And if Steele is delivering information to the FBI, it should be the FBI questioning Steele, not Steele questioning the FBI. I think what's interesting to me is after Steele got this information, where did Steele go with it? I mean, this is a question that needs to be answered. Did Steele approach Papadopoulos? Did he approach sources of Papadopoulos? How much information did he get from the FBI on George Papadopoulos? And those are questions that still need to be answered.
Greg Jarrett, from the legal side of this, do you see any legal issues? And you've been the one that has been pointing out, you have 4 levels deep of hearsay that would never be accepted in any court.
You know, this just underscores the FBI was politically motivated to damage Trump. They're meeting with Steele. They're trying to connect the dots with Papadopoulos. They're offering to pay money to Steele to continue to dig dirt on Donald Trump. They became, in a way, just a political arm of the Democratic National Committee and the Trump campaign. After the FBI cleared for political reasons Hillary Clinton in the email scandal and then launched a political vendetta to frame Trump over Russian collusion without a scintilla of evidence.
All right, Sebastian, let me get to you, Dr. Gorka. So she fixed the primary with Bernie Sanders. She had the legal issues so she could stay in the game. She had the FBI director and Peter Strzok, who hates Trump, loves Hillary, fix it so she can keep working. Otherwise, we know felonies were committed, mishandling classified information, et cetera. Then we literally have that fake dossier, you know, used to fix the general election, and then it's used for a FISA warrant against a opposing candidate in an election year, and it's used to surveil then a president-elect and his team.
Sean, I'm a legal immigrant to this country. I'm proud to be an American. I am ashamed and horrified by everything we are learning every day from Sarah, from her colleague John, from you, from Greg. Jeff Flake should be concerned with the Stalinist tactics of the Obama administration, not insulting this president who loves his country. What we are seeing is the systematic targeting of political adversaries using trumped-up intelligence files full of propaganda and using domestic surveillance. We have to use that phrase, Sean. It is the domestic surveillance for political purposes against people who were running against them as their political opponents. That's what communist authoritarian regimes do.
I hear now, we now know that the DOJ had to release the documents that the FBI had subpoenaed. They did it last minute. Rod Rosenstein tried to prevent it. He goes into Paul Ryan's office, begs him not to do it. We're getting some insight as to what we will learn next week. Sarah Carter, what are you hearing?
Well, extensive FISA abuse. What Sebastian just brought up is very important. I mean, we have to look at what type of surveillance was being conducted. What warrant? What did they have as far as evidence to obtain warrants to actually spy on members of President?
But the phony dossier was used, and then the FBI is collaborating with the guy that's getting the phony Russian propaganda. You can't make this up.
No, you can't. And I think Byron York brought up some really interesting facts in his column today. The fact that Steele could have been doing separate reports other than the dossier for members of the State Department. And they suspect he was paid, and he had a very close relationship with members of the State Department. So this is something that's being investigated.
You know, when you hire a spy who's trained in lies and deception, who relies on Russian spies trained in lies and deceptions, you get nothing but lies and deceptions. That is the basis of the dossier. And for the FBI to believe this document, which on its face is fictitious, is an abuse of power because
Glenn Simpson never looked at it.
They went to a judge to get a warrant to spy. You can't. That's a fraud on a court to use a fake.
I want to hear from that judge.
Document.
That judge, no judge I know likes being lied to. All right, so we have the fake news awards released tonight. Sebastian Gorka. It's not only the reports they get wrong; it's also the stories they will not cover. These stories, and I just see nothing but egg all over their face coming.
I am so. It's so magnanimous of the president to put Russian collusion at the bottom of the list. Russian collusion, not Paul Krugman, that laughable individual. That should be at the top of the list. And I'm glad you've got a sense of humor, because you have to have a sense of humor. 50 minutes on what the president's belt size is and whether he has 2 scoops. It's a parody of media, Sean. It's an absolute joke.
The list is great. We'll have more on it with Michelle Malkin and Joe Concha when we come back as Hannity continues.
Captain, the Army wants to...
Here with reaction, the host of Michelle Malkin Investigates on CRTV, Michelle Malkin, and The Hill's Joe Concha. I loved every one of it. Never mind the stories they don't cover. And this is the tip of the spear, the tip of the iceberg, Michelle.
It is. It's simply brilliant. I've got to hand it to President Trump and to everyone who compiled this list. I think that the execution leading up to the revelation of these awards was also brilliant. Because look at what you had. You had all of these thumbsuckers in the media working themselves up into an Olympic-sized lather. I counted about a half-dozen pieces just over the last 24 hours decrying the fake news awards before they were even given as some sort of escalation and a threat of violence against press freedoms. And of course we had Jeff Snowflake or Cornflake, Flake, on the Senate floor. Right? Frosty Flake embarrassing himself with his hyperbolic speech, comparing our president in a very fun way, being able to tell truths about the fake media, comparing our president to Stalin. These people, as you have so deftly pointed out, over the last hours and days and months, have completely lost their minds. And now President Trump is going to force them to cover each and every single item on the list.
Everybody in the bubble, the echo chamber, you know who all they are. I mean, we know who, we can name them. We do name them. But this is why it's so important. They've been saying that this is so bad for freedom of the press. You know what's bad for freedom of the press? Lying. And not only lying, there's choices. They won't cover the biggest stories that exist in our lifetime because of their agenda, and they still can't get over that they were wrong on the election.
Or, Sean, you can make the argument that Donald Trump is exercising his First Amendment right by pushing back at the media as he did during these fake news awards.
He has one?
Well, apparently, presidents have never really done that before, right? Republicans are always so worried they're going to get bad press, so they kind of kowtowed and didn't really punch back like this. I would argue that Trump supporters probably see the media as the opposition party more than Pelosi or Booker or Warren or anybody in the Democratic Party.
Why shouldn't he push back? This is well-deserved awards for losers.
Well, if you see the list here, it really is a great microcosm of 2017. Quick rundown of it. CNN won 4 awards, and I would imagine they'll make an ad campaign out of that. I'm not being sarcastic. They'll see it as a badge of honor, and that's fine.
By the way, that's really twisted because they were wrong in every count.
Well, right, exactly. I don't think they'll list the stories they got wrong.
You like our montage of the...
Of the S-holes?
The Shithole network.
Well,
the Shithole fake news network.
I believe they said it 165 times.
By the way, I want to say it here, but I can't. Because if I say it here, I have to sit in a meeting and get lectured that I shouldn't have said it and followed policy. And I don't feel like sitting through that meeting.
I'll let Michelle jump back in again. New York Times 1, 2, Washington Post 2, ABC 1, Newsweek 1. Here's the interesting part. BuzzFeed, they released the dossier, was not nominated. Very interesting.
Okay.
Also, Unscathed, networks that didn't get an award. NBC, surprising, CBS, and Fox News. Shocking.
Well, maybe. All right. You know, what's happening, I think, if you look at the statistics we showed last night, 2017, the year they tried to destroy a president with media research, but it's also a year that they created the biggest disservice to the American people. They are hurt when they can't get the truth, Michelle.
Yeah, that's right. And just to add a footnote to Joe's tally, the New York Times, I think I would actually add one more, since, of course, Eric Lichtblau came from the New York Times to CNN to commit the same kind of media malpractice that he did at the New York Times, the fish wrap of record. Look, to the point that you made, Sean, too, about why shouldn't our president push back against the media, I would turn that back, too, against all of those Republican senator sellouts over the last couple of days who've been auditioning for jobs with the liberal media. Do they not remember the pushback under the Obama administration? And I'm not just talking about all of the spying that the Obama administration did on journalists, from Cheryl Atkinson to the Associated Press to Fox News. Remember that the Obama White House had specifically assigned the White House communications director at the time, Anita Dunn, to go out every day in press briefings and specifically attack Fox News. And what do these people want to do? They want to disarm our president and his supporters and grassroots conservatives and independents who put him in office, and gag him from using his own First Amendment rights to push back when the media is wrong.
Ever be the person they want him to be. He's never going to put plane loads of cash, cargo plane loads of cash, and give them to Iranian mullahs and kiss their ass and try and bribe them not to be murdering dictators that want to destroy us. Joe.
Saying ass won't have you sit in a meeting tomorrow?
I'm not going to the meeting.
Okay, good for you. Look, and when people say, well, maybe things will change in 2018, we've clearly seen that this year has actually been worse than last year. We're only 16 days in. What happened with Sanjay Gupta is incredible to me, because he does a diagnosis from afar. That's one thing. He is also a neurosurgeon. Okay, so think of him as the electrician. And Ronnie Jackson wasn't the only person that was involved in the cardiovascular part of President Trump's prognosis. He also was actually consulting with cardiovascular surgeons from the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the leading hospitals in the country. And those are the plumbers, right? So you have an electrician talking about what a plumber should be doing, right? And it's kind of like when I go to get my colonoscopy next month.
Thanks for
I have
sharing.
to do, well, my dad had it. I got to go every 4 years. I would call my podiatrist. I mean, that's the thing.
Sure you don't want to say this on CNN, the old network?
That's a very graphic thing. There are people on the West Coast that get to enjoy their dinner right now. So thanks for that.
We got to roll.
I was trying to make a point.
You know, the president has a great sense of humor, and they'll never enjoy it. I thought this was great tonight. Good to see you.
Yeah.
When we come back, well, liberal, all network, CNN asked a panel of Ohio voters what they thought of President Trump. Didn't go as they planned and expected. You're going to love this next.
Tomorrow.
Economic news out today for President Trump and the country and you, the American people. Apple announcing it will be giving $2,500 worth of stock as bonuses to most employees following the new Trump tax law. And the company's also saying it will spend $30 billion in the U.S. over the next 5 years. And also today, this is amazing, CNN hosted a panel of Ohio voters who said President Trump had a fantastic year. They weren't expecting it. Take a look at the network.
We're 1 year in. How's he doing?
Fantastic.
Phenomenal. Great. Better than I ever would have dreamt. I mean that sincerely.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Derek?
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yes, he's doing wonderful. He's staying on task.
A year later, they all still want the wall. As for the president's inflammatory tweets and speech, Gino says he used to cringe. Not anymore.
So you don't cringe anymore because you've grown numb to it, or
no, not numb at all. But I know what he's done, and I'm starting to get an inkling why he uses Twitter in the way he does. Because if all he had to rely on is what people say about him, oh my God, I might not like the guy, but I love the guy. I love the job he's doing.
Justice met Trump at a rally and says he's not a racist.
He was just the nicest person, and honestly, if he was a racist, as everyone paints him out to be, he could have just walked right past me and not even said a word.
Here's reaction former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, former Obama economic advisor who gave us 8 years of crud. Austin Goolsbee is with us. Sorry, Austin. Dan, these are blue-collar workers, factory, iron worker. None of what the media says or what they're saying in D.C., New York, San Francisco, L.A. matters to the people in the country, the people that make the country great.
Yeah. You know what, Sean? Getting a $1,000 bonus in your paycheck at the end of the year will tend to do that to you. That's a whole lot of crumbs, in case Nancy Pelosi's watching, by the way. But, Sean, the most amazing takeaway from this whole thing is not only has President Trump's first year been incredibly consequential and conservative, by the way, it's all been done under an onslaught never seen in modern American history. A fake, bogus special counsel investigation into a crime that never happened. A unified obstructionist Democrat party that won't do a darn thing to help this guy. A lying media and a bunch of swamp rat rhino Republicans like Judas Jeff Flake out there attacking the president at every opportunity when the triage of needs should be hitting the liberals and saving America. And he still had a great first year. That's 2 big thumbs up for me.
Austin? Every economic indicator, every bonus, every dollar of repatriation, every dollar that's for a new factory and manufacturing center is all because of Donald Trump, because your guy failed.
Blaze, Donald Trump is having a very decent economy, a little bit worse than the last year of Obama. He's created a bit fewer jobs, 200,000 fewer jobs, but he's doing very well. The only thing I will note here is that Apple is clearing more than $200 billion of after-tax profit.
Oh, wait a minute.
They're
saying they're bringing back
$1,000th of that money to their employees. They're
billions,
supposed to be giving the
but they didn't get that under your guy in 8 years. The unemployment number is better. The job creation is better. The GDP is better. Consumer confidence is better. It's better for every demographic: Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, every American. And you can't even admit you were wrong.
It's continued to get better for the last 7 years when we didn't have a depression. You're right.
Only president never to reach 3% GDP growth ever in history, Dan Bongino.
Austin, you know I love debating with you, but I mean, you know people can see this, right? Like Sean has millions of views. You're saying this to actual people. Like you have a reputation. How do you continue to defend the Obama economy? Facts don't have a side, Austin. He never reached, Obama that is, 3% annualized GDP growth in any year of his presidency. He's the first president in American history to never do that.
2017 did not reach 3%, guys.
We had 2 consecutive quarters
2.3%.
We've had 2 consecutive quarters of over 3% growth. And Austin, let's be fair. You are the same guys who blamed Bush 7 years into the Obama presidency, and yet you want Trump to take credit for the first 2 months of his own. That is the absolute peak of hypocrisy.
You need to settle down, guys. You've convinced yourself because 3 people on CNN said the president was having a good year that you can ignore the fact that the Republican districts, say in Wisconsin, where Trump won by 17 points, it just went Democrat. That the state of Alabama elected a Democrat to the Senate. Donald Trump better be ready because he's not going to be having a very good 2018.
Yeah, they said the same thing about Ronald Reagan in 1984, and he won every single state but Minnesota, which he only lost by 3,000 votes.
And was 1984.
Oh no, but a lot of people thought Ronald Reagan was going to be in big trouble
with
re-election.
Way ahead in the polls in 1984. No one said he was going to lose.
People thought in 1982 Ronald Reagan was going to be in a world of trouble, and in 1984 it was one of the greatest electoral landslides in American history. You know why? Because let me quote the Bill Clinton team on this one, which I'll never do again. It's the economy, stupid. Don't ever forget it.
then why is Alabama now represented by a Democrat and why is a red
because Trump
district
derangement
in Wisconsin
syndrome
just
is in
elect a
effect?
Republican?
You're gonna blame Trump for Roy Moore? He didn't support Roy Moore in the beginning.
He
listen,
endorsed him. What do you mean
Brooks.
he didn't support him? He did support him.
Excuse me. He wanted Luther Strange. With all due respect, Roy Moore had a lot of problems.
True.
Don't blame
Austin,
Trump. You sound like the media now, like you have Trump derangement syndrome.
Hey, wait. Now, Sean, can you get me a nomination for a fake news award? You know the president. You're president.
The answer is I can give you a fake information award because you come on this program and you actually try to convince yourself that the guy that doubled our debt, gave us the lowest labor participation rate, literally the worst recovery since the 40s, never hitting 3% GDP, 51-year low home ownership rate, and you defend this. You should just say, Hannity, you're right. Bongino, you're right.
Oh, Austin, you know, you're an economist. We measure economic growth by growth rates. This isn't a mystery. Where's Obama? Bottom of the barrel in American history. Why do you keep defending this guy? Just save your reputation. Save your reputation and admit his policies were awful. Just admit it.
The tortoise and the hare.
We got to roll. Good to see you. When we come back, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, weighs in on just how corrupt your media is. And, of course, well, where's this all going with the special counsel? That's next. More on our top story tonight. The left-wing mainstream media just cannot believe that President Trump received a clean bill of health, something that would be good from his physician. And now they're looking for any excuse to discredit the results. Beyond pathetic. Take a look.
When he said 239 pounds.
Whatever, but I mean...
I know I'm being a girther, but I mean,
if that's what, 6'3", 239 pounds looks like, that's a shock to me.
I'm not sure if it makes me feel better that this doctor says that he has no cognitive issues. It makes me feel worse.
You have covered the man for decades.
Yeah.
You feel like you've seen changes.
I'm not a doctor, but I can see that he is not the sharp mind that he was when I first met him.
Joining us now with more reaction is the author of the best-selling book Vengeance, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Let's go through this. You saw the presser yesterday. I still cannot believe what I saw. So you have bone spurs, too much tweeting, TV, one scoop or two. Is he a drug addict? Does the president have dentures? Is he sedated? Does he need sedation? No president has ever had to undergo this garbage. It's funny, but there's really a sick side to this.
Well, let me say, first of all, as a historian, that while he didn't do it in the press room, Abraham Lincoln was attacked with about the same savagery and the same viciousness as Donald Trump. But I think, look, I'm a hawk on this, all right? I think they should line up every one of the most idiotic comments, put them on YouTube, and have a thumbs up and a thumbs down. And thumbs up means they get to stay. Thumbs down mean kick him out of the White House. Well, you have no obligation as president to have some idiot
the room will be empty.
Passionately convinced against you.
The room will be empty. Maybe you keep Dr. Liberal Joe and Dr. Mika Brzezinski.
No, it wouldn't be empty.
Pretty close.
It wouldn't be empty because you go out to local. You go to local TV stations and you say, do you have somebody who'd like to come and try out being a White House reporter? And you get a whole new generation of people who aren't jaded. They're not part of the Washington gang. They don't sit around every afternoon having a cocktail talking about how utterly stupid Trump is. And you create a whole new generation of reporters.
Okay. So we've been unpeeling on this program. You've been a big part of our coverage, the layers of the onion. A lot of progress is made. We now found out Uranium One, in fact, there's been a DOJ investigation nobody knew about for months. We had an 11-count indictment at the end of last week. Then we now know that the email server scandal, where the fix was in with Comey and Strzok, that is now back before Congress. Now the dossier is blowing up, and next week, I am told, we will have news that will shock the conscience. Here's my question. You have Hillary, we now know, rigged the primary against Bernie. He had no shot. Donna Brazile confirms it. Then we had her pay for Russian lies and propaganda to influence the American people and rig that election. Then she had Comey instruct, because they so wanted her, they rigged the investigation. They have an exoneration before an investigation. With all of what we just talked about in the media, there's very few of us discussing this. I don't mind being out on a limb. I've done it my whole career. But now it matters because the Constitution's in play. Your reaction?
Well, I agree, and it's very parallel to what they did yesterday about the health question. How can the Washington Post or the New York Times get up in the morning and look at themselves and not cover this? I mean, there's something really that's almost pathological, because as you're pointing out, week after week, more and more things are coming out. It's not just hearsay, it's not just investigative reporting. As you pointed out, an 11-count indictment. And frankly, because I had talked to you earlier today, I talked to some business people a while ago who said to me, oh, well, how do you think all of this is going to play out? And they clearly were thinking only of Trump. And I said, well, I think the 11-count indictment on Uranium One probably doesn't bode well for Hillary. They knew nothing about it. They were shocked that it had occurred. And I think you're beginning to see the pieces come together in what I think is ultimately going to be an unbelievably big scandal. And makes me feel that the defeat of Hillary, even more important than electing Trump, defeating Hillary so the corruption couldn't go on and not be noticed. Because all
it's
of
a
this was
cartel
under the rug.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I really believe she's in deep trouble.
Well, clearly she's in trouble. I think the foundation's in trouble. But I think, frankly, Comey's in trouble. I think, 98% of the FBI are honorable, hardworking, serious people.
Agreed.
But at the very top, they had a layer who really had been corrupted and didn't even realize how corrupt they had become.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always good to see you, and we will keep on peeling that layer because we deserve to know the truth. This is about influencing a presidential election, gaining a FISA warrant against an opposition candidate and an incoming president. This is serious stuff. All right, 2 videos of the day and some very apparently mean calls on the hotline. Can I get one nice person? Hello? Straight ahead.
Patrick woke up with back